Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess, where I try and help you understand where the mess comes from and that it's okay to be messy and how to clean it up through tips and strategies and things that will bring you peace. And just before we begin, if you want to listen to my podcast ad-free, you can subscribe to my Patreon account. I'll put the link in the details in the show notes. You also get bonus episodes and you get Q&As. So that's another way of listening to my content. And also, as I always say, these podcasts are for educational purposes and are not medical advice. And if you need medical advice, please contact the appropriate medical professional. Now, in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about disappointment, how to handle disappointment. Also a question I was asked and get asked often, and I get disappointed, and I'm sure you do too. So here is a great way of managing disappointment. As you all know, disappointment is that feeling that you have when an expectation is not met. So either you're disappointed in yourself or you're disappointed in someone else or a group of people or something that didn't go well, a project or something at school or at work or a meeting or some plan you had. So it's when something didn't quite work out the way you expected it. It's driven by a lot of passion because your disappointment is kind of a passionate kind of response to not achieving or not getting an expectation fulfilled. So there's good and bad in experiencing disappointment. Bad in that if we see it as a kind of, well, that's it and I don't go further, then it keeps us stuck. But if we see this as an emotion, that's a warning signal, like you always hear me say, emotions are warning signals that contain information. So you can see the disappointment as a data point, as giving you data about something that you're passionate about. So there's something there that you can actually learn from. So how do you then deal with it? 3 steps. You embrace it, you process it, and you reconceptualize it. So you do this within the neurocycle, but I'm going to do it as 3 steps, and then you can blend that into the neurocycle. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do when you experience disappointment is to embrace the feeling. Gather awareness of it and embrace it. Allow yourself to feel that feeling. Don't be scared of it. It's an emotion. Emotions are giving you information. If you just push it away, it doesn't go away because emotions are very powerful, as we know, and they're attached to details. And if you just try and shove it aside or push it aside, all you've done is suppress it. And when it's unprocessed, something that's unprocessed, that's suppressed, will increase your disappointment. And then it can influence other things, and it can kind of become something that that influences how you see things. And so, one disappointment can breed another disappointment, and you kind of get into a disappointment mindset. So it's always good to deal with the disappointment. First step then is to embrace it, gather awareness of it, and allow that emotion to flood through you. And like I always say, is we've got to embrace the feelings. We've got to feel all the whole signal. And in that embracing, don't just feel the emotion of disappointment, but just look at the reaction in your body. So I feel so disappointed. Maybe there's some other words that you can attach to it because I'm frustrated, because I'm just not irritated. I'm just so disappointed. Maybe that's all you can say. And as you're doing it, how do you feel in your stomach? Maybe or in your shoulders or your heart's palpitating. So quickly look at your body. And then maybe look at your behaviors, like maybe you are speaking angrily or there's frustration in your face, and then your perspective. This is just like a going nowhere or whatever. And so just a perspective and outlook. Grab all of those, embrace all of those. As you embrace, you get in control. You're not running away from them. You're not getting mad at yourself. You're allowing yourself to experience. So that's the mindful gathering awareness of the emotion of disappointment and the signals that it's attached to, as I explained. Behaviors, bodily symptoms, bodily signals, and the perspective. Then you're going to go into your processing mode. And the processing mode is where you're going to reflect and you're going to write. So processing is reflecting and writing. So in this stage, you're going to actually say and give the full sentence or sentences describing exactly what you're disappointed about. I am disappointed about X, Y, and Z. So, and as much detail as you need. So name it, describe it, explain it, be as specific as you can. And then ask yourself why. Why has this disappointed me? And answer yourself. And then maybe you have another why. And so you get details out there. Then you grab the emotions and all the signals and what you've just described and answered the why and write all of that down, which takes you to that next level. So write that down. And as you're writing, you're going to add more stuff. You're going to pull more stuff up because you've destabilized everything through the first few steps. And you've now, by writing it down, you've opened the first 2 steps, and writing has opened the doorway to the non-conscious mind through the subconscious mind. And now things are going to come up that are attached to that disappointment. So you're going to get a bigger picture of it. Then you're going to go to reconceptualization, which is step 4 in the neurocycle, where you're going to see this differently. You're going to provide another perspective. You're going to look at it from another angle. So, and then you're going to go into the 5th step, which is your action. Okay, so what am I now going to do? So this is a process that you're going to go through. You're going to be gentle with yourself through the process, but you're not going to allow yourself to stay stuck in one place for too long. We all have to embrace the feeling of disappointment, but we need to move beyond the mindful awareness of our feelings. We can't just get stuck at the mindful awareness of our feelings. If we can, but then you're going to be stuck and you're going to get more disappointed. So you want to move through the process. So it's embrace, process, and reconceptualize. So now let's have a look at an example of that. So basically, let's say that you had a business plan or something that was happening in your business. This has just happened to me in this last couple of weeks, where we were working on a major project and things did not work out in the way that I expected with the group of people I was working with. And I was very disappointed at how the situation was managed. So it reached an all-time high yesterday, and that's why I wanted to talk about this disappointment. And I was so disappointed, and I felt this whoosh of flooding all over me. And so I immediately I noticed immediately that I was really speaking quite angrily and quite aggressively. And I noticed my words, I noticed my body, my shoulders were so tense. I was hunched forward and getting mad. And I mean, I can own these things. And my perspective was, this is just never going to work out now. This whole thing's a disaster. I really went overgeneralized and really catastrophized. And, I really I don't know if you watched Jane the Virgin, such a great show. And her dad is called Rogelio de la Vega, and he's so dramatic. And so I really did if you know what I'm talking about, I did a Rogelio de la Vega where it was so dramatic. And that's just what happens when I'm very disappointed or emotional. That's how it comes out. So I notice that behavior. So I know that I observe that. So I'm getting control by observing. And then my perspective, I heard myself saying, oh my gosh, this is just a disaster. Now, what are we going to do? This is blah, 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 and a whole bunch of things like that. So I grabbed those. I was aware. I embraced them. I allowed myself to process them. I didn't stop. The people in the meeting know me well, so they didn't get freaked out by me getting mad and frustrated and going through all the process. And it wasn't as bad as I'm making it out to be, but it was bad enough that if you didn't know me, you might get a bit surprised. But I allowed myself to go through it, but I didn't stay there. I didn't stay cycling around, which I used to do in that disappointment, which then led to more disappointments and more disappointments. And suddenly the incident that I was disappointed about was now bringing up disappointments that were completely unrelated, because disappointment will breed more disappointment, will bring up more and more and more and more toxic disappointments. Let me bring my famous tree here. That will then, make you even more disappointed. And you can get in this cycle within you start getting anxious and depressed and frustrated, and then the emotions just kind of get out of control. So I know that I had to time that I had to give myself a certain amount of time, and it was just a few minutes of exploding. And then I started moving beyond. And so I went into the processing stage and I verbalized, okay, I am really disappointed because now I'm very passionate about this particular project and it's incredibly important to what I do. And it's a very complex project. And so I verbalized, I'm really disappointed about this. And as I was verbalizing it, I started seeing something. So I quickly wrote that down. And which is through the processing. So step 3, I started writing down, I am disappointed because I am so passionate about this project and this is what I hope to achieve, because I know this is what the impact is going to be on people's lives, and it's not now going to happen, and now we're going to have to wait longer, and who's going to be able to do this? And I saw all this coming out, and my passion was very evident in all of that, but I calmed down in that writing down process, and I started getting perspective. I started shifting over to step 4, where I wasn't stuck in the moment of this is going nowhere, I started seeing, okay, I'm passionate about this. I believe so much in this. There's a really important reason why this needs to move forward. So how can I look at all of this now that I'd written, and how can I reconceptualize this step 4? How can I see this differently? So I started looking at it differently, talking with my team and saying, okay, well, maybe if we do this option and this option and this option and look at it like this, and maybe they did this happen because this happened to them, or maybe we've misunderstood each other. And I felt so much better than I had at step 1, where I was just like immersed in my total and utter disappointment, which was leading to high levels of frustration and irritation and so on. But I calmed down, my breathing changed, my blood pressure dropped, my heart rate dropped. I was starting to feel anxiety along with that, the disappointment, because I was so passionate about this project. So I got it under control, and we didn't get a solution immediately, but we got an action, which was, okay, let's all sleep on this because this happened at 8 o'clock last night, and let's have a meeting at 9 o'clock this morning, which we did, and let's get certain other people that are consultants involved in this call, and let's have in a meeting, and let's talk through everything. And that was my 5th step. So I was able to now go to bed, didn't allow myself to think about it. Each time that I wanted to go back and ruminate on that disappointment, which would have affected my sleep, I said, tomorrow morning is the call, and I found myself, and we'll solve it and work out a way forward. And so I found myself a few times, I'll be honest with you, in the bath, getting into bed, dropping off to sleep. So I decided, okay, this is going to affect my sleep. So I need a rest. I've had a busy day. So I found a great funny movie, and I watched that movie, lying in bed, totally relaxed, went to sleep, had a great sleep, woke up this morning, suddenly getting more clarity. And we had our meeting, and we resolved a way forward that actually worked out. So my passion, the disappointment that turned into an action of passion, and now we have a solution. Hopefully it's going to work. But the disappointment, instead of holding me back, actually I turned around and helped me have more clarity, and helped me be an active contributor, creative contributor to our team meeting. Because I wasn't, when I was disappointed, I was just making things worse. But now I could become a creative participant in that particular meeting. So there's an example. So we embrace, we process, we reconceptualize using the 5 steps. Embrace is where we gather the awareness and we allow ourselves. The processing is the reflect and the write. The recheck is where we now look at what we've written and we work out how to see it differently, work out the antidote, work out the solution. What have we learned? How can we move forward? What have we learned about the relationship, the situation, etc.? And then the 5th step is the little action step. And you feel so much better having gone through that cycle. I feel better just telling you about this because I know how I felt yesterday, and I was not calm like I am now. And I don't feel like my heart's like going to beat out of my chest and I'm like boiling with frustration and from the disappointment. I feel in control, not sure how it's going to work out next, but I do know that we've got a plan of action that hopefully is going to work out. I have a possibilities mindset. And this is what managing disappointment does. It leads to a possibilities mindset that I'm aware that things could maybe not work out like I've planned, but I'm already thinking of, okay, if that doesn't work this way, then we've got plan B and we've got a plan C. So we've already, since the meeting this morning, come up with a plan B and C. So we're keeping our mind open, and I'm still feeling calm. So I hope that's helped you, and I look forward to seeing you next time with some more ways of cleaning up the mental mess. Thanks for joining me.